Today we're going to go through how to properly load and unload a sander and go through the pre-trip and post-trip inspections. As an equipment operator, it's your responsibility to make sure the equipment that you operate is safe and ready to be out on the road. And it's also important that you wear the proper PPE like glasses, gloves, hard hat, especially for a deal like this where you have stuff overhead, keep you from getting head injuries and things like that. As I walk up to the sander, I'm looking for any obvious signs of anything that's broke or bent. I'm gonna start at the front of the sander. I'm gonna check the tensioners, make sure the springs are in good shape. The bearings, I'm gonna check them, make sure they're not bad. And then I'm gonna look at the sander chain. As I look at it, I'm gonna check the tension. There shouldn't be any deflection between the front of the sander to the first cross member. I'm looking at the hoses, making sure they're wrapped around the front so they don't drag when you pull a truck under. As I come around here, I'm gonna check the railing, make sure it's secure. I'm gonna look at the hoses, make sure there's no leaks of any kind as I go through here. I'm gonna look at the tanks for any splits or cracks and make sure that the bolts and the hangers are all in good shape. Make sure that the valves are where I want them. And I'm gonna look at the sander door. This is a good time to look at it and set it where you need it. I'm gonna look visually inside the sander chute and look at the chain inside, make sure there are no problems there, no obstructions. And look at the rubber belting, make sure it's all in good shape. Make sure that your valve to your liquid tanks are shut off. And then you're also gonna wanna check your gearbox on this side for any obvious signs of leaks or anything. This here's the hydraulic motor that drives it. You'll wanna check it, make sure it's secure. And you're going to want to check your hydraulic hoses, make sure there's no leaks. If your sander is equipped with the spinner, you'll want to check all components that attach it and operate it. You're going to want to check the condition of the spinner plate, check underneath, make sure there are no leaks, visible leaks that you can see. You're going to want to check your hoses back here for your spinner. Then you're going to want to check the motor, make sure there are no visible signs of leaks. As you're doing your pre-trip inspection, you're going to be walking down it looking for any visual signs of cracks or wear or just anything that's loose or broke that needs addressed. It's a good thing to have help, have somebody kind of guiding you. They can see things that you can't while they're out there. As long as you can see the guy back here and he's guiding you, do what he tells you. If you don't see him, don't move that truck, don't do anything, because you don't know where he's at. And if you're the guy on the ground, it's in your best interest not to get anywhere in between the truck and the sander. Before you back under the sander, you'll want to make sure that you remove the pins out of the front legs of the sander. Once you get him fairly close to the sander, you'll want to raise the box. You want to make sure that it's up enough that it clears the front end of the sander so it's ready to slide into the truck. Once it gets to the back, you'll want to make sure that the pins align with the latches. Okay, now we're going to put the straps on the sander. You want to hook this strap up to secure the sander to the box and snug it. You want to make sure it's secure and tight. As you go to hook up your hydraulic lines, you want to take the covers out and hook them together so they stay clean. And once you get it up there and you push the handle, make sure it's secure, and it does have a lock on there to make sure it's secure. Once you have the sander loaded and your hydraulics hooked up and everything's secure, you'll want to go ahead and check the lights on the back of the sander to make sure they work. Your spotter should be back here behind the sander. That way you can avoid any pinch points up in here. As he's backing up, you'll want to make sure that everything clears the sander, like your hoses and your tie downs. Before you get in the back of the sander, you're going to want to make sure that the tailgate latches are latched to the sander. It's important to keep in mind before entering the back of a sander that it is considered a confined space and may be required by your district to fill out a confined space lockout certification form. You'll want to make sure that there's no hydraulic lines attached of any kind, and you'll want to make sure that the driver has the transmission in neutral and the brake set. With these things sitting outside in the weather, there could be wet and icy conditions, so you'll want to protect yourself from any falls by maintaining your 3-point grip as you climb up and down the sander. As you can see, the hoses are not attached. We're going to raise the box so we can loosen the tension on these chains. Okay. And once you get that done, you'll hook them to the top and move to the back. You'll motion him to go down, and then it'll give slack to the back chains where you can unhook those. After you have your chains all unhooked, now is a good time while you're back here to throw your hydraulic lines out and also hook up your boomer tie down. You want to go ahead and snug up your boomers to make sure they are secure. At this point, you're going to want to hook up your hydraulic hoses. As you can see, these here are different than the one we did previously. It was the block type. This one here has individual hoses. When you're finished doing this, you'll want to go ahead and take care of the excessive slack. Make sure it's all tight and uniform. This is when you're going to want to check your lights, make sure they work, and then you're going to want to check your spinner and your sander operation. Post-trip is pretty much the same as the pre-trip inspection. You'll want to check your chains, your hoses, your bearings, and check for restrictions in your doors and make sure everything works. Once you unload the sander, you'll want to wash them up as soon as possible and keep them clean. And the mechanics recommend that you grease all the bearings once a day, under normal use. That way it pushes out the water and the sand and that kind of stuff. If you're checking your equipment, making sure it's going to run, you'll be able to spot things that's wrong and you can get it fixed yourself. Or if it's bigger issues, then you need to schedule with a mechanic and have them do it. So when you're back under it the next time, even though you're going to do a pre-trip inspection on it, you know that that thing's ready and that you can go out on the road with it.